Okay, hang on. You're at 25 to 30% direct bookings, and I want everyone to hear this because the Iceberg Tahoe is a 3 month old, not even 3 months old yet in terms of launch, and you guys are already there. So people are finding you, they're discovering you, they're finding that direct site, and they're coming to you. That's huge. This episode of Branded and Booked may be one of my favorites because I have Andres Perez on with me today, you guys. And not only is Andres a former client, but he is someone in this boutique hospitality space that has just done such a phenomenal job of setting a goal and going after it. And you guys are going to hear about that today in the bringing of the Iceberg Tahoe, which is their boutique hotel in South Lake Tahoe, to life. So, Andres, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here. I would love for you to just take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, and then we'll get into it today.
I loved working with you through kind of the branding, which we'll talk about in a minute. But anyway, really happy to be here. And yeah, as a quick intro, for me, I started with real estate investing about, I don't know, at this point, it's like 8 years ago, while I was working at Google full time um, um, in anyway, finance operations. We started, as many people do, as many of your audience do, with short-term rentals. Well, we actually started with long-term rentals, then we moved into short-term rentals. We did that for a while, and then we moved into the boutique hotel space, as you know, after I left my full-time job a couple of years back. So that's kind of the quick context.
Okay, so I love this. You guys started with long-term rentals. I think I forgot that part of your story. What made you say, hey, we're just going to go all in on short-term rentals, or do you still own long-term too?
We do, and actually the first one that we bought, which is in San Jose, California, here, like a couple hours away from here, they just gave us notice that they're leaving after 6 years, which is painful. Yeah, very painful. But anyway, uh,
God.
so yeah, we actually like that was the first property that we bought with the intention of doing house hacking. We were gonna build an ADU and either rent it short term or long term, but kind of start with the house hacking strategy. That was early 2020. And But then the pandemic came and we moved back to Mexico and we closed on the property. So we put it on the market for rent and it has been rented until about 2 days ago. So anyway, that's kind of how we started. We started with long term, then we did a couple in Texas, which we still own, which we got a notice today that they're moving out. Anyway, a lot of
Okay, well, it sounds like we should all just be in short-term rental then.
exactly right. Yeah, we got a lot of bad news from the long-term side. But anyway, uh, I guess with the long terms, we realized that like as nothing new. You In order to kind of build an actual business around it, you need a bunch of them, like a significant number of them. Like it's just not scalable. So we always had the itch of doing kind of short terms, Airbnb, and all that stuff. So we moved into that with our first short-term rental in St. Augustine. So anyway, like yeah, we wanted to do the kind of hosting and kind of the hospitality play. So we kind of moved into that and we're there still.
That is phenomenal. Okay, so you guys decided to get into short-term rentals because you were kind of interested in the hospitality side of things. You invested first in that short-term rental in St. Augustine. You guys have a few in the portfolio for short-term rentals, right? And do you guys self-manage? I can't remember.
We do. We
Okay.
self-manage.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So for you, Andres, I did not remember that you used to work at Google either. Or maybe I didn't know that part of your story. Was it always a goal for you to say, hey, real estate investing is going to get me out of this full-time job? Or like, what was the plan or the thought process there?
Yeah, I kind of was like, similar story as like many people that we know. I'm sure like you as well, in some capacity, right? Kind
Hmm.
of. Yeah, so I kind of my going a little bit back my story. We moved into the States in 2013 to do I did an MBA in New York at NYU
Cool.
in 2013, and then 2015 got a full-time offer at Google. So I worked at Google for almost 10 years, from 2015 to 2024, and it was a great experience, amazing experience. It's a great place a great company, everything. But at some point, I like not that long after I joined, I realized that, I mean, again, similar story, that wasn't my cup of tea. I wanted to do something on my own, and again, similar story as many people listening to, as many people in your audience, I'm sure. real estate is kind of a common avenue to start kind of exploring that independence. So we started that like maybe 2018, 2019, exploring kind of how we were going to do that, kind of learning, similar story again, like podcast, bigger pockets, blah 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 blah, all that stuff. And yeah, so yeah, that's kind of my that was kind of my journey. So it took me from like 2018 that I made the decision that I wanted to do something else to like 2024. Um, yeah, it was
Wow, I love it. But it takes time. I think actually I love that part of your story because I think it's so easy for people to just be like, yeah, get into real estate investing and then you're going to leave your full-time job. And it's like, hang on a second. I actually think what is interesting and people don't talk enough about being an entrepreneur, banks look at you and they're like, you're a huge risk. So where's your W-2? Like that feels more safe and stable for us. And that has been huge for us, for Colin still having a W-2, because actually I do pay myself as a W-2 employee, but because I'm the business owner and we're an S corp, there's some like tax things there that I have to be mindful of. But again, a bank is just like the risk of entrepreneurship. And I'm like, oh my gosh. But I
yeah,
love that for you. And I think that that's a really important part of the story to hear is that this wasn't a like, we started investing in real estate and in 12 months I left my job. This was a, hey,
not
like
at
we
all.
made some strategic plays here and then planned for this and then left the full-time
Yeah,
job when it made
yeah,
sense.
yeah, and just to add to that, because you're hitting the nail on the head, and you know that you know it. Like it's funny because I actually like when I decided to kind of do real estate, I wanted to buy a hotel back in 2018, but then I had no idea of resale at all. So that was obviously not it didn't happen. What did happen is that I realized that given my time at Google and my like I had a good W-2, so like banks loved my profile. So I got like a bunch of loans. Like I bought 7 properties in my time at Google. Like we got, like we got multiple mortgages during the pandemic with like sub three, the story. So that was a huge component of us being able to kind of move away from a W-2 and also building reserves, right? Because as we all know, like entrepreneurship is tough. Cash flow is difficult. So like having a good reserve, um, I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do it without building that reserve.
Yeah, yeah, that is so important and also not something that everyone talks about. But I mean, your background now, Andres, is like finance, so this is your jam. You're all in on the numbers, and I love that for you.
We do our
Okay,
best.
so you guys had the short terms, you've been self-managing those. What it was the driving force for you to go from that? Because you could have purchased more short-term rental properties instead of the boutique hotel play. So why did you want to get into the boutique hotel side of things?
Yeah. I mean, and we were actually going to do that. That was our initial. So I always knew I wanted to leave, right? But I kept postponing precisely because I wanted to be in a good position, in a better position to do so. So initially, like the plan was, let's build a fund, let's scale up the short-term rentals. I was pitching actually buying a fund, like 10 properties, similar to the ones that we have in San Agustin. But then I realized that one, it's not as easy to cash flow these short-term rentals as people think or are kind of you listen to on Instagram and stuff. It's actually very hard
You mean people
to
are lying to us on Instagram, Andres?
yeah, who
I
would
mean,
believe, right?
honestly, though. Yeah, yeah. No, it is much more difficult than people think. And especially now with interest rates and all the things. So that is a good point that you make. But okay, proceed.
Yeah, exactly. So that is one. So that sort of it was difficult for us to, I guess, raise capital um, with kind of those projections. And also I was like, I need more cash flow. And,
Mhm.
and on top of that, it's like you have to buy 10 properties. So like it's not easy. Like it's just a lot of complexity.
Yeah.
So I was kind of exploring what other avenues were available, kind of, and then I came into the kind of boutique hotel space, which at some point I had explored like long way back. So that's kind of where like I was probably like I don't know, mid 2024, I believe, or even before that. I don't remember, but anyway, I kind of got into that idea of kind of like moving up into the boutique hotel space. So that's kind of where I started kind of listening to similar thing, right? Like listening to podcasts. That's when I met Blake and kind of started doing kind of research on kind of the different groups that were available. And I went with Blake. I think that's kind of Still think that's kind of the best group for boutique hotels out there. So shout out to Blake. And Yeah. So anyway, to your question, yeah. So I needed something that was like a better, I guess a better business, better returns,
Mhm.
something that was more scalable, like be able to grow quicker. And honestly, something that I liked. I had always kind of had the itch for a hotel. So those were kind of the three reasons where I like pivoted into the boutique hotel space.
Yeah. Wow. Huge. Okay. I love this. There's a lot of good nuggets in what you're sharing. Number one was find a mentor. And
Mhm.
yes, we all love Blake. He's great. And if you guys don't know who Blake is, he's got a boutique hotel mastermind that's phenomenal. And we'll be sure to put a link for that in the show notes if you guys are interested in learning more about that. But also you're really leaning into, okay, let's look at cash flow. Also, economies of scale too. When you have a boutique hotel, now you're hiring cleaners for, 17, 19 rooms, etc., versus one single family property. And it, again, very different business model as well. And it's more the commercial asset. So even when you go to sell that commercial asset at some point in time, that looks different than just comparing to every other single family home in the market. I think this is the other thing that doesn't get talked enough about in the short-term rental space. Everyone wants to talk about design and investing in design. And I do think that that's so important, but it's like at what cost? If you're investing into a property, if you're buying a property that is run down and you're renovating, that's maybe a different scenario. But if you're buying a property that's already turnkey, then adding design, it's like, how long do you have to hold on to this property to make your money back on that and still pay all of your expenses and so forth? There's some just like some factors there that I don't think get taken into consideration all the time. So then it's like, are short-term rentals really profitable? In some cases, yes, but in some cases, it's like, I don't know. So you guys
Totally.
decided to get into boutique hotels and for a lot of reasons. And then your search began for the acquisition process. And I would love for you to share that because this side of the process is also not talked enough about. And I know you had some challenges in finding this property in South Lake Tahoe. So kind of walk us through that.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't easy. We had we encountered like many challenges. So essentially, I guess our search process began. Oh man, dates start to kind of blur, but I think probably actually it's when I joined the mastermind, so
Okay.
which was like late 2024. That's when I said, okay, I'm getting into this, so like it's time to step on the gas, and we obviously like it's a whole new world versus like looking for single family homes. We kind of just followed kind of Blake's guidance in terms of kind of like getting to know the brokers. Well, first of all, like we had our sort of our markets defined or our area defined. So we live in, as you know, we live in Sacramento. So I knew I wanted to be close to it, even though like we do kind of remote management and like that's the model that we are all pursuing. I wanted to be close to it, could drive to a couple times a week. So we decided to look like 2 hour radius from Sacramento, driving distance from Sacramento. So basically we just started skimming the markets around there, Sacramento, Lake Tahoe, obviously, which is kind of where we ended up. Thank God. So that's the market that I like the most. And just like Napa Valley, even some smaller markets in the Sierra Nevada. So kind of that's kind of our initial process was to drive to all these markets, get to know the areas, and get to know the brokers, right? Like just call the brokers, just try to build relationships with them, and crunch the numbers, like underwrite properties, see kind of which ones made sense, and started sending offers after a couple months. Um, the challenge that we faced initially is that the markets around here in Northern California, as you would expect, it's not like you're gonna find deals like just floating around everywhere. But like that it didn't happen at all. Like all of the prices that we were seeing is like just didn't make sense. Like it just people were like pie in the sky prices. We just couldn't find anything. And We just kept looking. I think our I guess we just were persistent. There was no way back. So we found the Iceberg former was the former Avalon Lodge through a broker relationship that we built in South Lake Tahoe. So he's a broker that he's been there for 50 years. And anyway, we were kind of having an ongoing conversation, um, and um, and this property was a pocket listing that he had. Well, actually, he showed it to us before the sellers actually decided to sell. He was kind of like pursuing it. He knew that it was underperforming significantly, so he's like, visit this one. He was kind of like prepping the way, and then he got them to agree to sell it, and so he brought it to us, and we negotiated the price, and anyway we got seller financing as well for 50%. Anyway, we got some concessions, and the price made sense. So it's not like like you wouldn't see like a the deal of the century in terms of kind of the numbers because it's in a like really competitive market, but it works. And we got it, I think, at a great price. And it's like the location is unbeatable. You've been there. So anyway, that's kind of the story. Um,
Yeah, wild. Okay, so a couple things for those of you who are listening that you should take away from what Andres just shared with you. Number one, and this is what Blake promotes too, broker relationships. The reason that you guys were able to purchase the Iceberg Tahoe is because you'd built this relationship with the broker, not just a like, hey, we're looking for hotels. What can you give to us? Like you had an ongoing relationship of, hey, this is what we're looking for. Again, you're building that, you're nurturing that. And then he was pursuing this owner of what was formerly the Avalon Lodge and trying to get them to sell because he knew that the property was underperforming. So again, that goes back to being a broker that's really dialed into the market, seeing what's going on, and then being able to say, "Hey, I think you should sell this. Let me do it, and I will find a buyer for you." And that worked out. And then you guys also on the deal, this is where again, really interesting creative finance happens in the commercial side of things that we don't always see in the single family home side, but seller financing. So you guys were able to get seller financing. And then did you do a bank loan or did you raise and that was it? You
yeah,
raised.
we 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 didn't raise any capital, I guess, not capital, any debt
Okay.
from banks or any other institution. We just the only debt that we have is the seller financing. We did 50%
Okay.
seller financed, which is kind of what we were able to. That's kind of I guess what they offered, which actually um, made us yeah, put the property under contract. Um, so yeah, we didn't have any bank financing or institutional financing. We got everything is capital, everything for the rehab and kind of the other 50% of the 50% down payment, if you will, is investor capital from our group of investors, which obviously without them we wouldn't have been able to do this. We have a strong group of investors back in Mexico. I don't know if I mentioned them from Mexico, but anyway, I am. So that's kind of where we got the capital.
Okay, amazing. So you guys leverage seller financing and then raising capital. I was chatting with somebody the other day who is looking at a 35-acre property that they want to turn into a glam crown. And then we started talking about raising capital and they were like, "What?" It's a whole other world that if you're not in this space, especially on the commercial side, you have no idea. What were some of the things that you think are important if somebody is thinking about trying to get into a commercial property, the boutique hotel side, on the raising capital piece that helped you guys be able to find the investors who wanted to contribute to this deal?
Yeah, totally. I think for us there's a couple things. Well, the main one I think, which would encompass everything, is we had a good story.
Mm,
I think everything is stories, right? And we had a good story, which is true actually. Like obviously, we wouldn't be selling that to investors, but the story is essentially like we have a great property in an amazing location. Well, actually, it starts with the market, right? So we were pitching it from the outside in. So like Lake Tahoe is the premier sort of travel destination for Northern California markets. So for the Bay Area, which is arguably the place that has generated the most wealth in the history of humanity, and it will keep doing that. That's kind of their drive to destination all year round. So like strong feeder markets that are going to be there and have always been there. So that's I think the main anchor for investment thesis. And then within Lake Tahoe, we are located in kind of the most commercial, town, if you will, and in an unbeatable location. So like you combine the strength of the market with the like the solid demand with unbeatable location and a great price that we were able to get through like proper search and like on a sort of a underperforming property and kind of negotiating and all that. So I guess to circle all of that, to bring that all that back, the main thing is to have a good story, something that resonates with investors, and that's kind of what I think helped us be successful on that front. I mean, and the other thing I will add there for us, we're raising capital abroad. So the other aspect that's very helpful is we provide a solution for high net worth individuals like wanting to diversify their wealth
Hmm.
into US real estate. So that's
Yeah.
essentially what we do. That's actually our, I think, our value add.
Yep.
We provide that to investors, and combine that with kind of the other piece that I alluded to before is the story around Lake Tahoe and the property and something that resonates with people. People know about it because if it's abroad, it's much harder to sell something that they are not familiar with versus like a ski market, something that they can identify, California, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the thing. And finally, like I guess it's obvious, like having done it before. I mean, not the hotel, but like having some experience. It's
Sure.
always helpful.
Yep. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Totally. Okay. So you guys purchased the Avalon Lodge. Went through all of the all of the due diligence process, raising capital, all the things, and then the purchase happened. And you guys renovated this property in 90 days, right? It was roughly a 3 month period of time from the time that you guys closed to the time that you were opening doors again. That's insane to me. Actually insane. And you have how many rooms again?
Good.
19? 20.
Good.
20 rooms. Okay. So you renovated 20 rooms in 3 months and completely transformed the outside area as well. And during that time, we also worked on the brand for the Iceberg Tahoe. I would love for you to just kind of share with the audience, you were purchasing an older property that sort of had a not so stellar reputation and not so stellar reviews. What for you was it, Andres, that you were like, we need to ditch everything that's happening here and completely reimagine it? Because I feel like in this space, there's a couple of ways to go. Like Blake with Tremont Lodge, he kept Tremont. They refined it, they renovated, etc. But they just took over all of Tremont's like assets, basically their Google profile, etc. You guys were like abandon ship and completely start new. So I would love for you to walk the audience through what the decision was there for you.
Yeah, of course. I think, I mean, we we kind of evaluated that obviously, but like there was nothing that we wanted to keep from the previous brand.
Hmm.
Like the reviews were not good. The brand seemed old
Yep.
and kind of like outdated. And we didn't, yeah, I think like the sort of the public profiles, Google profile, all that had bad reviews, Expedia, all that, the OTAs. And 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 we didn't have like a book of guests or anything like that we needed to keep. So there was no value in keeping the old brand, and we didn't like the old brand. So like let's start something new. Let's start something fresh. Like that was, I mean, in reality, it was not like a difficult decision. It was just like there's no value in the old brand,
Yeah.
or from any perspective.
Yeah, that's huge. So I think that that's such a good point and something for people to take into consideration though, because it can be a like, oh, do we like just keep what's working or do we like invest in branding and doing all the things? And for you guys, you saw a huge value add there. I would love for you to talk through the naming of this property because you guys brought the name to me actually when we decided to do brand strategy and you were back and forth on it for like 3 or 4 weeks, I think, maybe even longer, but that was like the process with me. What for you was it that you guys were kind of considering as you were thinking about the Iceberg Tahoe? And then what was the final, we're doing this. This is what the name is.
Yeah, we were talking about this, Eliska, my wife and I, the other day actually. But anyway, I think you know the story, and we were thinking about the name, um, and and we were kind of doing some like brainstorming, and the iceberg came up, And actually, I've always liked Iceberg. I have one Iceberg tattoos in my back. But that was
Love it.
before the before the hotel.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We liked it. It seemed like it was. I don't know. We had the potential to be iconic, kind of like memorable. And I don't know. I just clicked. Honestly, it was kind of like emotional, and it sort of it seemed like a good way to go. And then
Yeah.
we brought it to you, and you liked it as well. Like you were sort of bought into it as well. Like you saw the potential. We talked about also kind of the potential to be iconic, the potential for it to be memorable. We wanted to move away from like a bunch of names that you see in Lake Tahoe that just blend away. So we wanted something that would be easily like remembered by people. And anyway, we did have some pushback internally from our from my other partners, from some other like I guess stakeholders as well, um, in terms of kind of and we talked about this as well, kind of the downside the potential of being cold. I don't know whether it's always subjective, right? Like kind of um, the branding journey, but at some point, like I didn't see or we didn't see any strong advocates for any other avenue. There was no one like, oh, I really like this one, or this one is really good, or this one has, and I'm like, then then it settled because I was like strongly supportive of this name, and I'm like, so if I have that like strong affinity to it, then it has to be that one.
Yeah, 100%. Well, I think you're right. It is so iconic, and that's why I was like, the Avalon Lodge, how forgettable. Like very forgettable name. Didn't really describe the experience or it didn't it was just kind of like, okay, that could be taken and placed in any market, but the Iceberg Tahoe is so iconically Tahoe that it's ownable and it's memorable and it's something that your guests who stay with you are going to be like, oh yeah, I stayed at the Iceberg this weekend. I could imagine your guests going back to their jobs in the Bay Area and being like, you guys got to go check out this place where we stayed and we skied and we bombed all those hills in Lake Tahoe this weekend. Like, we got to go stay at the Iceberg, right? And that just the story that we could create around that. And this element, too, to give some insight to the audience who's listening on the brand strategy, there's this element of mystery around the Lake Tahoe area in general. And so icebergs are kind of mysterious. They're kind of interesting, kind of mysterious. And if you're thinking about like you can see the top of the iceberg, but then all of this stuff that's below. And so we kind of wanted to play on that a little bit as well as we were thinking about, all right, what's the story that we're telling here? And playing on, what Tahoe is sort of known for, the story there, that mysterious level of engagement around Tahoe, etc. And then bringing that into the iceberg. And I think too, not forgetting about guest location. And to your point, Andres, I know you were really concerned about, oh, this like feeling of things being cold. But I think in the wintertime, yes, like that is totally the connotation and it makes sense. In the summer, I think it's just cool. It's like, this is a cool place I stayed, right? Such a vibe, and very iconic and memorable. So I'm glad you guys ended up going with it because I agree with you. Even the names we were developing, I was like, none of these are as good as the iceberg. Just they're not.
Yeah, and yeah, as I've told you before, you sell it better than I do. So you like I forgot about that component of kind of the mystery and kind of the lake and kind of all of that history around the branding, which we talked about extensively, and it was a great experience, and I think it sort of helped us build obviously like this thing that we are now operating. But yeah, thank you for bringing that up on terms of the mystery, that whole language around there's more beneath the surface, which again you and your team helped us create, which we are in love with all of the branding and all of the narrative and kind of everything that it represents. I think it sort of it captures the project that we envisioned and that we brought to life perfectly.
Yeah, yeah, you guys crushed it. It's so good, Andres. I love it.
Real good.
I would love for you to share with the audience because I feel like whenever we start talking about brand strategy, there's this conversation of what kind of ROI do we expect to see on branding or what are we really investing in here? I would love for you to kind of walk the audience through if you guys have seen anything. I know you've only been open for like 2.5 months at this point at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
But if you have seen it, what you think maybe if the brand has impacted ADR in any capacity, and if not yet, why do you guys think that the branding side of things was so important for you to walk through and you knew that that was a worthwhile investment for the project as a whole?
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking of ROI metrics at this point. I will say the following. I mean, we have had pretty decent, I wouldn't say decent, like above budget revenue for January and February and December. Um, so and I guess piggybacking on that, and I should have these numbers, we should have them, but we I think we have a pretty decent direct booking presence.
That's awesome.
Probably like, I mean, for us, not like having dialed in yet all of that, but like maybe 25%, 30%, something around those lines. Um,
Okay, hang on. You're at 25 to 30% direct bookings, and I want everyone to hear this because the Iceberg Tahoe is a 3 month old, not even 3 months old yet in terms of launch, and you guys are already there. So people are finding you, they're discovering you, they're finding that direct site, and they're coming to you. That's huge. Kudos to you guys. And you guys have been executing the brand from a marketing perspective too. I mean, I see the posts on Instagram, and so I know that you guys are doing the work there too, which is amazing.
yeah.
So kudos to you, Andres. That's huge.
Thanks, Steph. Yeah, and obviously, like, thank you again because obviously you were fundamental in helping us build this. And yeah, I think we are kind of around those like 25% direct bookings. As you said, the we do a very well crafted strategy on social, on Instagram, and that's Elishka. So shout out to her as well. But that's also based on the brand, right? Like we have a good brand to sell, a good design, and so um, we 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 are doing a good job on that front. So I think that's one metric that we could attribute obviously to the brand
Mhm.
and to the kind of the marketing efforts that we are working on um, day after day. The other thing that I also want to add to that, which I've noticed, is with our investor group. They are in love with it. Yeah, so that's huge, right? Because they wear the hats, which by the way, I'm gonna send you yours. They love the hats. They just like post with their hats, like they're just talking about it, making noise, and they're excited. They love it. We've had a bunch of investors visit the iceberg in the last couple of months. They all get their hats, and they are all sort of proud of them. So like we built something together, and obviously having our investors happy is important, very important. So yeah, I think those are the two things that I can say. Like it's definitely kind of been fundamental for our success. Whereas if you would have done something ad hoc, um, I don't know, who knows what the outcome would have been, right? With
Mhm.
maybe we kept the old brand.
Yeah.
I'm sure we wouldn't have had the same impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So interesting. I love that you brought that up because it's actually not something that I had thought about on the what's the return on the branding side of things. Because obviously for you, Andres, you're not stopping at just the Iceberg Tahoe. You're going to keep going. And those investors are probably much more likely to want to participate in your next project with you, seeing the success, feeling that emotional buy-in. There's an emotional connection for them to the Iceberg Tahoe. That's the thing I think just kind of gets missed over when we start talking about branding because it is so emotionally driven, it's perception, but your stakeholders have this different level of buy-in because they feel connected to it and what was created. And now when you go to do the next project, they're like, okay, Andres, like, what's the next step here? We're going to really go all in on this. And that makes them want to participate in the next project even more. That's really cool.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
I love
Um,
that. I love that. I love that. Well, Andres, I really appreciate you being on here today. So thank you for taking the time. If anyone would like to follow you and connect, where should they do that? Where can they come hang out and check out the iceberg? Give us all the details and I'll drop it in the
of
show
course,
notes.
like they should follow us on Instagram, the Iceberg Tahoe. That's our handle, so pretty straightforward. And we would love to host. any of your audience at the hotel. I guess if they go, like, we can give them a discount code.
Oh, cool. We'll set
Yeah,
up a
for
promo
them.
code. We'll drop it in the show notes for you guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That'd be
See what
great.
Iceberg Launch, but you can just
Yes.
drop it there as well.
Perfect. I love that. I
Um,
love it.
yeah, so yeah, would love for people to follow us there. We're posting content regularly, and yeah, yeah. I don't post that much in my Instagram, but like Andres, what is my handle? Andres PSR. If you guys want to follow as
I'll drop
well.
that. I'll drop that for everyone as well. Yay. Andres, thank you again so much. We really appreciate it. For those of you who are listening, I hope you enjoyed this episode today. I hope it gave you some good insight on kind of honestly a lot of things, right? We talked a lot today about the acquisition process, the leap from long-term rentals to short-term into commercial hospitality and that boutique hotel space and what that process looked like. Talked about the importance of the branding process as well and kind of the decision to leave behind an old sort of rundown brand and recreate something new that it stands on its own and holds its own identity and really has that emotional connection, not only for guests, but also for stakeholders, which will just make the next project that much more successful and desirable for those investors to want to be a part of. So this was a great episode. I appreciate you all being here today. Please be sure to leave a review if you enjoyed today's episode, and I'll see you on the next one of Branded and Booked.
Awesome. Thanks so much.